Level 1, $0. Tuesday, 11:52 p.m. You're not tired. You're something past tired. The version of exhausted that keeps you awake instead of putting you to sleep. The laptop is open on your knees. The cursor blinks in an empty document titled Idea. You've had the idea for 8 months. You've told exactly one person about it, your roommate, at a party after 2 drinks, in the tone people use when they don't actually believe what they're saying. Tonight you're not talking about it. Tonight you're typing the first line. You delete it. You type it again. You delete it again. This happens 11 times before you leave one sentence standing. It's a bad sentence. You know it's a bad sentence. You save the document anyway and close the laptop like you just did something illegal. Nobody saw this. Nobody will see this for a long time. That's the part nobody prepares you for. The beginning has no witnesses. You go to work the next morning at the job that pays $58,000 a year and sit through a meeting about a project you don't care about. And underneath the meeting, in a part of your brain nobody assigned a task to, the idea is still running. You've started something and told no one, which means if it fails, no one will know. And if it works, no one will believe you started it 8 months ago in a document called Idea. The first rule, at $0, the only cost is your own belief. And belief is the most expensive thing you'll spend the entire time you're building this. Level 2, $47. First sale. A stranger on the internet gives you $47 for something you made in your bedroom. You refresh the page 4 times to make sure it's real. It is real. You do not tell your parents. You do not post about it. You sit with $47 the way you'd sit with a strange animal that wandered into your kitchen, careful not to move too fast in case it leaves. You've made money before, a paycheck every 2 weeks for 6 years. This is different. Nobody assigned you this. Nobody scheduled this deposit. You made a thing. A stranger wanted it, and money moved from their life into yours because of a decision you made alone at midnight. You work on it for 11 more nights that month. Not glamorous nights. Nights where you fall asleep at your desk twice and wake up with a crease on your face from the keyboard. The second sale takes 6 days to arrive. The third takes 2. You don't notice the pattern yet. You're too tired to notice patterns. You're just moving forward one small transaction at a time, still telling no one, still treating the whole thing like a fragile experiment that dies the moment you say it out loud. The second rule, the first dollar doesn't feel like money. It feels like permission. Level 3, $600 a month. You've been at this for 5 months. The side hustle now makes more than your car payment. You do the math on a Sunday and sit very still afterward. $600 a month is not enough to change your life. It is enough to change how you think about your life, which turns out to be the more important number. You start saying no to things you used to say yes to automatically. A Friday happy hour, gone, traded for 2 hours at your desk. A weekend trip a friend invites you on, declined, because you have a deadline nobody but you knows exists. Your friend group notices before your bank account does. Someone asks what's going on with you lately. You say you've been busy. You don't say with what. The secrecy isn't shame anymore, it's protection. You've watched what happens to unfinished things the moment they become conversation topics. How the opinions of people who aren't doing the work start living in your head rent-free. How easy it is to explain an idea into nothing. So you keep building in the dark. Your day job starts to feel like a costume you put on for 8 hours. You are polite in meetings. You nod at the right times. But the real version of you clocks back in at 6 p.m. and doesn't stop until midnight. The third rule, $600 a month, is the number where a hobby starts asking to be taken seriously, and most people don't answer. Level 4, $2,400 a month. You tell your partner, not because you decided to, because they found the spreadsheet. There's a conversation at the kitchen table that lasts 90 minutes and covers more ground than every conversation you've had about money combined. They ask if you're going to quit your job. You say no, not yet, and you mean it. But something in the way you say it makes you wonder if you're lying to both of them. The math is getting harder to ignore. Your day job pays $4,833 a month after taxes. The side hustle now pays half of that, working roughly 15 hours a week instead of 40. You run the number so many times it stops feeling like a spreadsheet and starts feeling like a decision waiting to happen. You buy your first real tool for the business, $340 for something that saves you 6 hours a week. You almost don't buy it. You've never spent money on the thing before, only made money from it. And spending $70s, your first business purchase, feel like a threshold. You cross it. The 6 hours it buys you back get reinvested immediately into more work. Nobody claps. Your parents ask when you're going to get a real career, unaware they're describing something that already happened. The fourth rule, $2,400 a month, is the point where the thing you built stops being a secret and starts being a negotiation with the rest of your life. Level 5, $6,000 a month. You quit, not dramatically. You give 2 weeks' notice on a Tuesday morning in an email that took you 40 minutes to write and 11 seconds to read out loud in your head before sending. Your manager says he's not surprised. That stings more than you expect. You wanted it to be a surprise. You wanted the leap to look bigger from the outside than it apparently looked. The first Monday without a job to go to. You wake up at 6:40 a.m. out of habit and lie in bed for 20 extra minutes not knowing what to do with them. This is supposed to be freedom. It feels for the first 4 days like falling. Nobody is checking if you're working. Nobody is timing your lunch. The structure that used to hold your day up is gone, and you have to build a new one from nothing, which turns out to be its own full-time job. You work more hours in the first month of self-employment than you did in your last month of employment, and you make less money doing it, because the business has expenses now that used to be absorbed by a steady paycheck. Health insurance costs $410 a month out of pocket, a number that used to be invisible on a benefits page, and is now a line item you personally authorize every 30 days. You don't regret it. You also don't sleep well for 6 weeks. The fifth rule, freedom and stability are not opposites, but for a while, it feels exactly like trading one for the other. Level 6, $18,000 a month. Something shifts that has nothing to do with money. You hire your first contractor, a freelance editor who costs $1,800 a month, and the first time you pay an invoice to someone else for work you used to do yourself at 1 a.m., you feel a specific kind of grief. Not for the money, for the identity. You built this by doing everything yourself and letting go of a piece of it, even a piece you hated doing. Feels like losing a part of the story you tell about who you are. You get over it in about 3 weeks, the moment you realize the 6 hours you got back produced more revenue than the $1,800 cost. Your business starts having a shape now, not just a founder grinding alone, an actual small operation with a rhythm and other people depending on decisions you make. You get invited to speak on a podcast with 40,000 downloads. You say yes and spend 9 hours preparing for a 22-minute conversation because you still don't trust that you belong in the room. Your old coworkers start reaching out, not with congratulations exactly, with questions, careful ones, the kind people ask when they're quietly running the numbers on their own life against yours. You answer every message honestly, including the parts that are hard, the sleepless weeks, the health insurance bill, the loneliness of not having a team around you for the first 2 years. Nobody wants to hear the hard parts. They want the number. The sixth rule, $18,000 a month, is where the business stops needing your hands on everything and starts needing your judgment on the few things that matter. Level 7, $40,000 a month. You have a team now, 5 people, none of whom you've met in person, spread across 3 time zones, and the strange intimacy of running a company through a screen with people whose kitchens you've seen, but whose height you've never known. Payroll is the scariest number you've ever looked at, scarier than your own rent used to be, because it isn't just your risk anymore. If a bad month happens, 5 other households feel it before you do. You start making decisions differently, slower on the big ones, faster on the small ones, because you've learned the two get confused constantly, and confusing them is expensive. A competitor launches something similar to what you built. You feel the old fear for about 4 hours, then you keep working because you've noticed something true. The businesses that die from competition were usually already dying from something else. Your calendar fills with things that used to feel impossible. A call with a potential investor who doesn't need your money. A partnership offer from a company you used to be a customer of. You turn most of it down. Saying no at this level feels different than saying no at level 3. At level 3, no protected your time. At level 7, no protects your direction. The 7th rule, $40,000 a month, is where you stop being the busiest person in the business and start being the only person who can see the whole board. Level 8, $110,000 a month. You hit a number you used to write on sticky notes and hide in a drawer because looking at it too often made it feel unserious. A fantasy figure, the kind of number people put in vision boards and never reach. You reach it on a Thursday and don't tell anyone for 4 days. The same instinct from level 1, the fear that saying it out loud will somehow undo it. When you finally do tell someone, Your old roommate, the one from the party 8 years earlier. They don't remember the conversation at all. You remember every word of it. That's the part that lands hardest, not the number. The realization that the moment that changed your life was invisible to everyone standing in the room with you. The business runs without you touching it for 12 days while you travel. The first real test of whether you built a job or a company. And it passes. Revenue doesn't dip. Nobody calls you in a panic. You come home and feel something unfamiliar. Not pride exactly, more like recognition. The sense of watching a thing you made continue existing without your hands holding it up. You think about the version of you at the kitchen table with the 90-minute conversation and the spreadsheet. And you understand now that he had no idea what he was actually building. He thought he was building income. He was building a machine. The 8th rule, past 6 figures a month, the business stops being something you do and becomes something you steer. Level 9, $1 million in the bank. The number arrives on an ordinary Wednesday with no ceremony attached to it. A number in an account you've looked at every single day for 6 years. The same account that once held a spreadsheet formula, projecting 8 months of survival if the whole thing failed. You sit with it the way you sat with $47, careful, quiet, waiting to feel something bigger than what actually shows up. What shows up is small and specific. A kind of exhale you didn't know your chest had been holding since the night you typed and deleted that first sentence 11 times. You call the person you told about the idea at the party, the roommate, now a friend who's watched every version of this from the outside, and you don't lead with the number. You lead with the sentence you wrote first, the bad one, the one you almost didn't keep. You ask if they remember it. They don't. You do. You always will. The 9th rule, $1 million doesn't feel like a rival. It feels like proof that the version of you who kept going on the nights nobody was watching was right to keep going, and that proof was the actual thing you were building the entire time. The money was just how you could finally see it. Somewhere right now, someone is sitting with a laptop, open on their knees at 11:52 p.m., typing a sentence into an empty document and deleting it 11 times before leaving one standing. They haven't told anyone. They won't for months. Nobody is watching. And nobody will clap when the first $47 arrives, and nobody will remember the exact wording of the sentence that started all of it, except the person who wrote it. The side hustle doesn't start when the money starts. It starts in the silence before anyone believes it's real, including, most nights, the person building it.